people building this AI are all male. We don't want the answers to be all male oriented. We want more females in this space. We want more females to be involved in providing information feeding the information that's providing this AI.
Welcome to another episode of Think Beyond Possible, not a podcast, where we talk with very talented individuals and we extract from them their greatness, and we try to bring that greatness to our viewers, whether you want to be a student at Xccelerate, whether you follow us because you're inspired or you just stumbled upon this reel because of our fantastic marketing team that gets us a lot of exposure. In these episodes, we like to learn from these individuals, their pathways, what they've achieved, what they're working on, and a little bit about what they look for in talent if they were hiring, or what advice they would give to somebody who might want to follow their footsteps. Today, I am honored to have Payal Shah with me, who, funny story, we were on a panel together, might be 4, 5, 6 years ago.
A few years ago.
Haven't aged a day.
Look at you, even for a white guy.
Race is okay here today. And we talked about gender in tech. And correct. I do have a video somewhere. And if I could find it, we're going to put it as B-Reel.
I definitely have a photo. So if not a video, I'll send you the photo.
You've come a long way.
Oh, thank you.
And I would love for you to just briefly introduce yourself before I jump into prodding you for info.
My name is Payal, as you've mentioned. By the way, also an honor being here. I just want to start off and saying that thank you so much for having me. My name is Payal. I am Hong Kong Indian. I am second generation Indian. I have a fine jewelry brand, which has been my constant business for since 2011, 2012, called Little Zen, and now is spidered into different collections. Other than that, I am somewhat of a serial entrepreneur. So I love, what keeps me alive is constantly being, in the know, but also curious, and also adapting that curiosity to different projects that I get the luxury as well as sort of force myself on, because I just want to know, and that's the only way to learn. I love running. I love working out. I love, traveling if it's done in the right way. But I love exploring new cities. And I love hanging out with my friends. And yeah, I think and good energy, good positivity.
Fantastic. What's traveling the right way, by the way?
Traveling the right way to me is, depending. I feel like there has to be some purpose with that travel, whether it's educational or whether it's, even if it's spontaneous. I'm all about that. But traveling.
It's traveling the wrong way.
I don't know. I don't know why what I mean by that, but I feel like travel has to, today, if I'm going to travel, there has to be differentiation between work and leisure for me, because I feel like I get such little days to go and just have a leisure travel that it has to be done in a way where I really get to immerse myself in a very sanctuary state of mind, as opposed to what I used to do my first decade, which was only add travel to my work travels already. So it'd be like, oh, I'm already going to this place, let me add 2 more days and turn it into leisure. But it's really hard to switch off right away. And so now if I want to travel for leisure, I like to differentiate it from my work travels, or at least take a few days before I do the jump between the two.
Okay. Yeah. That makes sense. But let's jump into your journey.
Correct.
I love this journey because it's very inspirational for for individuals that have sought perhaps a different path than what they originally studied, because you studied architecture and you've made it into a combination of jewelry and tech. Correct. Okay. So what was the inspiration for architecture?
I was doing A-levels when I was here in Hong Kong at KG5, and my subjects then were maths, business, and art. I knew that somewhere down the line, given that my parents were entrepreneurs at business and seeing them start their own business, I was already getting that business acumen that I didn't think if I was going to spend all this money to go to university that I wanted to learn per se. I thought about the future, and I thought about, hey, I love design. I love problem solving. I love the little hint of mathematics in it
Yeah.
as well. And I looked at all the different syllabuses, and I thought architecture, great. I mean, the syllabus that I was looking at was a BA in architecture. It had Photoshop, it had engineering, it had art history, it had, and I was like, all of these, I, for me to go, and today it's easy. You can go on, take a master class or a YouTube video.
Mm.
When we were going to university, it was still like something you needed to go out and learn and spend money learning.
Yeah.
Whereas somewhere down the line, I said, oh, I'll just take an MBA, or business will be something that I might just consider in the future. Right now, I want to learn skill sets.
Mm-hmm.
And so architecture sort of felt like, hey, a great start. And I could mean that I could go down many different avenues, which is what I did. I worked at an interior design firm for a year,
Yeah.
doing FF&E. I got a diploma in interior design as well. And a part of me was like, maybe property development, that's exciting, like turning and flipping something that's, in ruins to something fabulous,
Mm-hmm.
and then upselling it. I loved watching those shows. So that was like sort of the mindset behind it. My parents are in the diamond trade, so I've been going to trade shows my whole life.
Mm.
But it wasn't what I've never really wanted to be part of the family business. And but I did like the idea of having the flexibility of some access to materials, like which I use today, that come from having the family business.
Mm-hmm.
So I walked a show at the convention center, and a Singapore company loved all this jewelry that I was wearing that I would make on the side for myself whilst doing some extra hours with the family business. And they proposed that I design a collection with them. Thought it was exciting. Did a few pieces. We flew down to Vegas, and I also loved the selling. I just thought it was so fun to create a piece of art and then sell it straight away,
Yeah.
and like make money, but also like everyone's admiring this gorgeous like piece of art that was your vision, and then validating it was,
Mm-hmm.
there's a form of validation in this form of purchase, right?
Of course.
Yeah.
Mad dopamine.
Exactly, mad dopamine. And so I kept working with the Singapore company for a while. And as I got more skill sets on how they were running their business and what they were doing, and maybe I thought to myself, I feel like this is at 22, 23. I'm like, I think I can do this on my own.
Yeah.
I mean, it was being naive, but sometimes being naive is the way forward to really make that big jump.
Mm-hmm.
I then started sort of creating a collection for myself. I had another investor that sort of was backing my manufacturing, and we worked out a model, and that's how we grew. And it was only up until like 4 or 5 years ago that we actually we'd been working for that many years together.
Wow.
Until like actually just 4 or 5 years ago, just before COVID.
And the name of the company's, I hope I say it right before you correct me, Le Design.
Le Design.
Le Design, which means the design.
The design. It was so funny because like back then when I was young, again, I'm like, just anything European had like this idea of like luxury associated with it. So, I mean, technically it's not even the right French vocabulary because there's no
Haagen-Dazs isn't a word either.
Exactly. But what I realized over time is I created a name that I gave relevance to.
Right. Your name is behind the brand. So on the website, I mean,
By
your
Payal
branding.
Shah.
Yeah, exactly.
That's actually because I had worked with a U.S. company when I was expanding in the U.S. and I started off as a wholesale model and moved into more retail and brand because my stuff was very distinctive and that I was getting a lot of feedback that I should be a brand and not a wholesaler.
Okay.
My aesthetic, the design aesthetic was more for branding, and it was just, again, I didn't study this. This is all coming to me. So I had somewhat of an agency that I was working with that was like helping me expand in the U.S. and they made me change my name from Le Design Jewelry to Le Design by Payal Shah.
So at that point, had you already had like your own following of sorts?
The following is hilarious. I kid you not, because I'd started traveling such an early age, doing trade shows and exhibitions. I was in a pageant like at 21, and then I was doing the trade shows, and then I was starting this company. I was doing it all, that I barely had time to spend time with my friends who are still like maybe doing an extra year of university or working at companies. Instagram had just come out, And I thought of it as like a visual diary to sort of update my friends about what
Yeah.
I was doing and where I was at work.
Uh,
It wasn't a trend then to be like an Instagram celebrity or like a social media icon of any sorts. I just sort of see it. I just loved sharing all my findings through a visual journey.
mhm.
So like, oh my guys, check out this, or look what I just did, or how, and people really resonated that with that entrepreneurial journey, and that's actually how the Instagram sort of inceptualized itself.
So, like, if you were to advise someone who was building a brand,
Hmm.
like jewelry, it could be anything. Um, at what point would you say it's time to put your name behind this versus like, hey, maybe it's not so much about you, it's about the company. I think it's an important decision. I mean, I was impressed and I was curious. It's like when does one choose to make their name part of the brand?
Absolutely. I think when it comes to fashion,
Yeah.
there's a lot of association with the designer and its name associated with a brand.
Hmm.
Because my initial brand, Little Zen, doesn't have my name in it,
Hmm.
for people to know that. Also because SEO, right? I
Hmm.
was getting so much traction just as being me.
Okay.
When people search for Little Zen by Payal Shah,
Yeah.
even articles related to me that are not related to the jewelry
Yeah.
would come up, whether it's to do with fashion or
Hmm.
tech, and then vice versa. Um, do I think it's always advisable? I started my second collection stylish, and that's kind of a play on my initials, PSY, like stylish.
You're clever.
Yeah, I mean, so there's always like this, like if I had started maybe I would have picked a name that like had a little bit of my name
Hmm.
in it,
Hmm.
and then it was like a sort of hybrid of my name and a brand.
Yeah.
But because I didn't have any sort of content of my name within the brand name, I needed both all of the SEO that I was collecting
Hmm.
to be towards one big brand.
Okay. That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, exactly. And because firstly, initially, I just had the Instagram, but now
Mhm.
all the brands have their own Instagrams, and they have their own little identity,
Mhm.
which I don't really associate myself a lot with. But there'll be a few, it's more product associate. But the kind of analytics you get through a personal journey is
Mhm.
just beyond measures than you can get through just a company
That makes sense.
social.
And you're on a lot of covers and in a lot of magazines.
Yeah, I mean, I have like a really exciting cover coming out this month for Travel and Leisure, which is like one of the biggest covers I've ever done.
Okay.
But again, that was nothing to do with jewelry.
Travel and leisure, and then the title of your article is How to Travel the Right Way.
How to travel the right way. Actually, it's a tribute to Hong Kong.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah.
I did have, I think there's some of our team members are Indian as well. And that's a topic. As a matter of fact, one gentleman, Avi, this is a promo for you, has a new podcast that discusses that.
Anything and everything.
And one thing that came up was, here in Hong Kong, as a second generation immigrant, did you find any challenges when starting your business, or how has that journey been here?
I totally see why that could be somewhat of a challenge. I think one of the smartest things I did is my investor early on was Chinese.
Mm-hmm.
So anything that was associated with legality or the back end,
Mm-hmm.
we would use his name.
Okay.
And because he's like, been here for years. I also have a very active family, parents in Hong Kong. So they're very much in the society in the sense that like they love, being in different cultures and associations.
Mm-hmm.
I think I've always been really open-minded about other cultures, and I do think when you get path it forward, it comes back because I'm not judgmental about any other cultures, and I don't expect that to be towards me.
Yeah.
And if you are open to having those conversations
Mm-hmm.
and really justifying those, I mean, I am Indian, but I'm international Indian,
Mm-hmm.
and that is a fact.
Yeah.
I like to morph into different cultures and really understand like why it is the way they think or what was the inception of them thinking this way.
Yeah.
Or their history. And there are still days where a taxi driver will be more racist to me than a local.
Mm-hmm.
There's a sort of prejudgment, but I think if spend a little bit more time with them and you can show some kindness, like sometimes that's you work with and you understand the rules of that country.
Yeah.
And you follow them.
Yeah.
And not be a nuisance, they'll respect that. And I think that's really important. Also, being really strict about my work, and also, I talk a lot. I'm open to speaking to people. I'm open to having conversations. Makes me very someone easy to sort of not be judgmental about, because I'll be very open about my views and open about hearing other people's views.
Okay.
So being an immigrant, maybe a little bit, but not so much in the sense, because Hong Kong in general has been quite international from the get-go. And I've really embraced the city, and it's really embraced me back in great ways. And I've really tried to enjoy all different cultures whilst I've been here.
That's fantastic. Yeah, we've had a lot of immigrants to Hong Kong take our courses because sometimes I guess it's country agnostic, but I guess when somebody comes to a new place, if they have difficulty finding work, they need to upskill. So a lot of people have found Xccelerate useful for getting ahead. So I think it's a fantastic story to hear and a very inspirational. So then moving into tech.
Correct.
So you've gone from architecture to jewelry, but then you were listed as Tatler Asia's 30 under 30 for NFT. 30 most
influential Web3 influence. I don't know. Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, it was cool because Yatsu was on there, and I was like, oh. And then,
that's pretty cool.
Yeah, so
that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
So then your goal, I think now this was going back to the, I guess the dawn of the Web3 craze. You were looking to pair your jewelry with NFTs, unique NFTs. And I think that's a fantastic idea. That's like a real practical use case for that. But it seems maybe right now that's not at the forefront of what you're into. Has it taken like a bit of a backseat?
So let me tell you a short version of this amazing story. Tech has always been like my love language, in the sense that I'm the friend that helps you fix your Pio, why is this not working? He calls me up, software, anything. I'm your go-to girl when it comes to most things tech. So when Web3 came about and COVID was happening at the same time, I needed there to be something. I was like, I need to learn something. I need to feel like I am still, we were stuck at home in COVID. And I wanted to feel like I was still sort of immersed in how the world was moving. And Web3 was the biggest movement.
Yes.
But also art has taken such a big, leap of interest in everyone's minds. So whenever I take on a new subject, I always look at, okay, but how does this influence my business? That's always a great way to take on a new subject, whether it's we can talk about AI later, but let's say Web3.
Yeah.
It's what does that mean for a luxury business?
Yes.
And what does that mean for luxury? And what does the relevance of this new technology going to do to me and my community and what I'm doing? Then I started looking at that and realized that blockchain was such a great way of, looking at provenance of pieces, which if you think about it today, what auctions the most? A piece that Princess Diana's worn once, or there's just so much, there's this sort of art layer to luxury when there's this history associated with it.
Yeah.
So I saw that as an interesting angle. I was also just really into buying a lot of women-led NFTs, like a World of Women, Cyber Chicks, and so many of them. I was trading a lot of women-led NFTs when NFTs were a lucrative sort of.
Where have they gone?
Exactly. And because of that, but I was also one of the only women in my space sort of really pushing language to the point where people thought I was hoax, which I get because it's a really hard subject to take on. It's a whole new vocabulary. It's a whole new world. It's intimidating from the out when you start using Discord for the first time. And then, but I was hosting Twitter spaces to understand gender equality in Web3 as well. And, we got lots of different amazing NFT projects come on and talk about how women buy versus how men buy generally. And it was exciting because it had to give me something to do whilst COVID was around. But then I turned into a full-on project when I got approached by these twin sisters, and their company was called Digital Twin. and their brother is the founder of MoonPay.
Okay.
So they came from a lot of experience and, you know, a lot of their own provenance in this space. And I was looking to create my first NFT jewelry. But why? So that we really look at the technology, like
Yeah.
why have an NFT jewelry? What does that mean for the world? And why is this going to make such a difference to already buyers?
Mhm.
So what we looked at then is, okay, well, phygital, this idea of, you know, having the piece online and offline, but also um, purchasing the piece prior to it being made for lesser production.
Mhm.
And, you know, lots of different, and also a digital sort of certificate and a
Yeah.
digital, like when you buy a Rolex as a man,
Mhm.
imagine if you had all that paperwork that comes with the Rolex on a blockchain, so that you know how legitimate it is.
Yes.
And because there's such a
That makes
resale and
sense.
upsell market.
Mhm.
So that was the entire sort of motivation behind it.
Yeah.
But it turned into this exciting where we did an auction. It sold for like 4 or 5 ETH, which used to be something a lot back then.
Yeah.
This one piece that we just had a digital form, and then we
Mhm.
made the physical once the item was purchased on this auction. Then we did another show in person in Miami with the same company, Digital Twins, where we did a regular jewelry show, which is like the jewelry in the showcases. You know how you usually go to a jewelry show? But in order for you to purchase the item, we only have one of each item, but in order for you to purchase it, you scan a QR code, it goes into your wallet, you purchase the NFT,
Mm.
you see you know how many pieces are available based on that and how many NFTs are available of that item, purchase it, and then you can redeem it at any time.
Mhm.
What's great about this is you might have purchased it at 2 ETH, and tomorrow 2 ETH might be worth way more, so
Yeah.
your value of that item goes up. So this sort of play on like what NFTs were already doing. My third exciting part of this whole thing was being one of the first jewelers in the Metaverse. So we partnered with 2 different NFT PFP projects, where one of their properties was a piece of jewelry from Le Design,
Mhm.
and then you could actually be those avatars in like decentralized.
That's so cool.
Yeah. So World of Women, like there's lots of amazing ones, and so I remember when the project released its NFTs, and I saw some of these, like it's called laid back llamas.
Mhm.
They had my headbands as some of the properties, some of the pieces, but you can actually be your laid back llama in what's the Animoca one?
The
The Metaverse for Animoca.
animal. Oh, that's called Sandbox.
Sandbox,
Yeah.
correct. Not these,
Thank God,
Sandbox, yeah. So you could be that. So it was like, technically, my jewelry is now in the Metaverse in Sandbox. And this is not because like I've built something, I just collaborated, and that collaboration turned into something exciting. And overall, even just from like a new standpoint, I come from a very saturated industry. Fashion and luxury is so saturated. There are brands every day. You're competing with people with huge budgets, magazines, generational wealth. So how do you differentiate yourself? Differentiate yourself by innovating and doing new things and
Yes.
taking risks. Because I was one of the first brands to do all of these fun things with Web3, it got me into Tatler's under 30. I
Yeah.
mean, not under 30 most influential, or etc. Like all
Yeah.
these exciting articles like Forbes, or like, you know, different Web3 sort of articles. And it also advertised to a whole new audience of people I would never advertise my jewelry to, like crypto
Yeah.
free. Yeah.
So it brought you new customers.
Yeah.
And then, but is it something you're still sort of implementing? Because I didn't see it when I was.
I'm not doing anything actively. Last year we did one of my archive pieces, which is an award-winning piece we have. We did a sort of we created an NFT with Women's Wear Daily in Korea with a Gallery X.
Yeah.
And we created this beautiful video that shows this sort of mindset behind this amazing piece, and we've now attached it to this piece of jewelry. So we think we sometimes add this artistic value, like you get to see the behind the scene, the sort of the brain process of a designer, and that's the NFT. Like you're not only buying the piece, you're buying the thought.
The thought
that went into buying the piece.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah. So we do fun projects like that. It's just not as widely used right now. I just don't have the time to create the widely used. But I know there are lots of new applications that are coming out that will make this easy. I think unless and if you don't have a crypto wallet as easy as you do as your Apple Pay, it's just going to be really hard
Right.
to integrate into mass production.
That makes sense. So you've moved on to AI,
Yes,
and you are teaching, training AI in seminars and workshops
correct.
for female entrepreneurs worldwide.
Correct.
That is so cool. And how have you been implementing? I do want to know how you're learning, but I want to know first how you're implementing it into your business, if you are.
You answered my question. So I always start any subject that I want to learn. How can I implement this into my business?
Yes.
What is AI going to do for my business and my life? And that's how I start learning.
Yeah.
And it's how I did Web3. And so I think working backwards is great, because then you pick on a few things. So it's like, oh, productivity. That's been my sort of vision for everything I'm doing in AI, whether it's the classes that we're doing. The classes we did with female entrepreneurs was really important, because I saw how quickly Web3 became such a male-dominated, space. I didn't want that to be with AI. I mean, people building this AI are all male. People, providing all the information, which is building this sort of new generation of internet, is all male.
Yeah.
We don't want the answers to be all male oriented. We want more females in this space. We want more females to be involved in providing information feeding the information that's providing this AI. So it started off as working on being part of this app called Untold. It's an app that my friend and founder Ashwath from SF is building. Incredible voice journal app, basically taking what you do on a day-to-day basis before you go to bed is like, a nice like little journal to yourself about your day, about your goals, what maybe you felt that day. But this is all voice generated, and it's an entire app with like all these amazing features. You can turn your entries into a manifestation, sort of affirmations. You can you can give like a month's worth of journaling, and you can then go on a date and be like, what should be my red flags? What should I be looking out for? Or what should I put in my dating app? Or when it comes to if I'm trying a new diet, do you think I should be implementing new exercises? Like it picks up on all these like information, but it obviously
based on what you're saying before you go to bed.
So basically, you turn on the app, you speak to it, and then you just speak to it like you're speaking to yourself, and then it asks as you do
normally.
And it's the most comfortable, right?
Yeah.
And then it asks you follow-up questions, which you're more than happy to answer. You don't have to. You can just like end it there.
Yeah.
But it asks you questions that you've had this, but is there a way that's made you feel? And then you answer that, and it tries to. But it has all these other exciting features that turns your entries into like a Sex in the City sort of script. It also like does this really fun stuff. And then every few days it'll give you a teaching from different religions like Sikhism or like Zoroastrianism or Christianity, and based on what your journal entries have been, it will give you sort of relevance into that religion and what it teaches you. You don't have to, but these are features you can apply and apply into your journal entries.
Okay.
My favorite new feature is that it turns your entries into a guided meditation. So it's a person speaking out to you where you can put your phone away, and it says how you sit, closing your eyes, and turns into a full guided meditation.
But it's not you guiding yourself. That would kind of, I don't
no,
think I
it
can do that.
isn't.
I don't want to hear myself in my ear.
Hey,
bro.
Yeah, the voices that we're using, we have numerous different voices that we're using in the app that are very realistic.
Okay.
The voices are very exciting because we use this app called 11 Labs, which is like a pioneer in AI voices. They've gotten all the realistic voices on there. It's just a library of them, and we've used some that I think resonate with this like meditation, like this voice journal sort of journey.
Okay.
And you can pick from different voices, just
so
like
this is integrated into your business.
It's integrated into Untold App.
Okay.
And I'm coming on board on Untold App is just with growth. And,
okay.
But whilst we were building it, whilst he was building it, I learned a lot about prompt engineering through him, because we were working on a different app that sort of was in a similar realm of things, which was an affirmations app, which to create these amazing affirmations, I was in charge of sort of working on these different prompts that would give you the result that you're seeing these apps. And that's when I really learned about how important and how particular you have to be in your prompts. I think prompt writing is a whole subject of its own.
Yeah.
And what people don't realize is that the inception of prompt, like it's a chat, it's a conversation, and that you should have a conversation with it like you do with a human, and
Yes.
tell it when it's wrong and tell it when it doesn't feel right, and it picks up on it.
Yeah.
Because it's not just like Google. It's a system that's sort of taking in information. So that's when I sort of dived into this AI. I actually wanted to create a text to jewelry design app, and that's why I was introduced to this a friend of mine, now a friend of mine. But separately, now I do know these founders who are creating this amazing, it's called algoneering, and they just text to final pieces of jewelry, which is so crazy.
Okay.
I mean, you fill in these 4 boxes, and then they give you like these realistic looking jewelry items. It like takes away from that design sort of, at least it gives you somewhere to start from, and taking your imagination to another level.
That's so cool.
Yeah, it's really exciting. It's a really great way to show a client straight away, like, is this sort of what you're thinking about? Is this what your headspace is at?
Yeah.
I don't see it as like you should take that and then physically make it, but it's a great way to put in part of your research and then eliminate all that time that you spent sketching and just like coming up with concepts so that your client can pick one, and then you can come up with another 5,000 concepts.
That's brilliant.
Yeah.
That is so cool. And it's something that you're working on, you're, I guess, going to implement into your business.
Correct.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay, because I was wondering, applications. I knew there was something, but that's really cool. And that's not something I could find easily when I was doing my research.
Yeah. And then, I mean, it's very new. I'm not builder of any of these apps, but I make it my business to somewhat be associated, whether it's I'm helping them with growth, or I'm helping them acquire new customers.
Yeah.
I did that with the augmented reality during COVID when we had it in our business. But because my thing is, how do I get it to the masses? Like, how do I bring this amazing tech to the masses, which is why I love doing the classes as well.
Right.
We're going to move that to webinars.
Okay.
And we want to do this idea where it's sort of a podcast webinar. We bring experts from different AI specialties. So whether it's a Canva expert or like, and bring them onto a webinar and host these like very easy and fun learning conversations.
You are a pile of brilliance.
Well, let's see. It's not launched yet, but being part of these, I'm constantly being curious.
Yeah.
Right now, I mean, Otter, just general apps that I love that are making my life better. Like I went to a tarot reader, I turned on Otter, and now I don't need to like write down notes about what my tarot reader said. It did summarized all my, notes for me. So it's like not only just business, right? You can use it anywhere, going to seminars, or whether it's using WordTune or Canva or like all these amazing apps available to you. I think if you're not using them, you're going to get outsmarted by people who are.
You are learning and you're staying at the forefront for your business, and that's so cool. But you also mentioned that you surround yourself with other people that maybe take care of more of the building parts, but it's important to know at least around the tech. So how can NFTs be used? How do they work? AI, so on and so forth. So sometimes we tell people when they're interested in learning tech, like, look, you don't have to learn and then apply it, but you should learn and expose yourself to it so you know how to use it in some way, shape, or form. When you're learning, what is your preferred learning method? Do you just jump in? Do you do Coursera? Do you do YouTube, books?
I look at it in many different ways. I think for me, what's worked best is application. Okay. So I always look at what is the relevance of this tech? Does it need to be around? Does it need to be in my life? When I look at the possibilities that you can have with AI, I see freedom. Mm-hmm. I see that much less time spent doing all these small little, mundane tasks that I don't need to do, whether it's like writing an email, whether it's, honestly, like sometimes it's replying to emails that don't really require my attention. Yeah. Using AI now, it's just so easy because you don't miss out on anything that you don't need to. Just even legal emails sent to you, which you don't understand, I'm learning better now. Because people try to confuse you with these legalities and terms and conditions. In the past, we've just been signing on everything. Yes. But now I can literally put any of these articles into my GPTs or AI apps and learn that I'm signing on the right documents.
Hmm.
Also, in such a competitive space, I feel like if you're going to differentiate, if you don't have it will it should motivate you in itself, because I think tech is our language on a day-to-day basis. I mean,
Yes.
we're doing a podcast right now, which is like probably going to go through some form of AI
Hmm.
before it's released.
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
Some form.
some form, whether
Yeah.
it's
Oh, subtitles,
Descript.
descripts, ahs. We translate.
Exactly.
Yes.
Your captions that you will put
Yes.
underneath now can be
Captions.
produced by AI.
Hmm.
This entire episode would have taken you a month to put out, whereas
Yeah.
like you can probably put this out in a week.
Yeah. There's an app we're using called Descripts.
It's the
Matter of
best.
fact, it's so
It's
cool.
one of my 5 apps that I love exploring. I'm not into podcasts yet, but I do think it's very cool, like your eyes and all that, really cool.
Yeah.
My top 5 AI apps that you should be
Yes.
using, or at least I'm using. Yeah.
Mhm.
Until this one, Otter is great.
Otter,
GPT.
GPT,
You've got to love it.
Descript.
Descript is great. I'm not a podcast user, but it is a really great app.
Okay.
In video is something I looked at recently, which is
Okay.
so cool. It was just literally text to video generator. Algoneering for jewelers.
Okay.
So many exciting words. WordTune is
Okay.
great for like tuning in like different sorts. Lots of amazing ones. Honestly, I just felt Canva's great.
Canva's good.
Canva's great. But that's it. You don't really need a lot either.
No, you don't.
It's like you can't overcomplicate these things. You don't, yeah.
Yeah.
You need to have some substance of yourself. I always say it's a tool. Don't
Yes.
forget who you are and what your story is, and being able to be yourself. You know, I came up with this seminar name that we're going to be doing. I was like, I'm not going to use GPT because my thing is I know how to come up with cool names.
Yeah.
So I didn't, and I came up with a really cool name, and it's called What in the AI.
Yeah.
And so it's like, yeah, and like, I mean, it's like, it's exciting when you can say that it's not
Yeah.
a GPT generated.
It is. And then honestly,
Yeah.
like sometimes I get like underwhelmed by the responses. It's at a point now where when you first discover it, you're like, oh, that's so cool. And then you use it. And then later I've started to personally circle back around to personal touch,
Mhm.
because I get like frustrated knowing that GPT is going to give me generic responses and things I won't like. And then I get angry at it and I'm like, GPT, you're so lame. So like I try to encourage people to.
I think
It's kind of like a boring dad. Like, hey, have you tried these titles, son? And you're
oh,
like,
for sure. I mean,
Yeah.
I definitely think, given that there's so much digital art coming out of AI, that there's going to be such an influx for actually hand painted,
yes.
like human created products and
Mhm.
paintings and art, because if there's not even a touch of AI associated with it. And you're even, I mean, it's so easy to recognize when you go through these LinkedIn posts that someone's just created one prompt on one of these GPTs and created a post. Like, it's so easy now. If you've used it enough, it's so easy to identify AI language.
Yes.
And if you've gone from like someone who did casual posts to like all of a sudden very generated
Yeah.
posts, it's also not a great look. I
As
think
a culture, it's amazing how
Yeah.
everyone knows now.
everyone knows now, but that's the thing. Now the next step is not, AI is not the future anymore. How do you as AI, but also humanize AI and make you more human so you can then work? That's the future of AI.
Yes.
I think we've already moved to it. I mean, when you looked at all these new features coming in ChatGPT 4
Mhm.
and then also the Google,
Yeah.
I mean, it's incredible. It's like you're going to have a voice assistant similar to her.
That's what
anytime
I'm
soon.
looking forward to.
Yeah.
Someone to answer your emails when you're sleeping. Like, do things for you when you can't be there, and just trust that.
But
it's being
can you
done well.
imagine the amount of emails that will increase? I think now there's just sort of this responsibility for me. It's like, I'm not going to send you an email because I know you're sleeping. But now if I know that emails are just going to be sent, there's
Just two
going to be,
GPTs talking to
well,
each other.
my joke I always say is there's going to be a day where you're going to ask your AI assistant to make a reservation, and they're going to call up a restaurant that's basically receptioned by an AI,
Mhm.
and they're going to both speak to each other and make the reservation, and no humans will have had any interaction there.
Yes.
So if that's cool to you, great.
Uh-huh.
We have to look at the bad with the good.
Yes.
And I think that's always been I'm super pro in the sense of productivity and giving you more time for imagination and doing things that are, you have more time for more creative mind,
Yeah.
creative thinking. But do the creative thinking then.
Yeah.
Don't just think of it as a lazy way out.
Yes.
If you're taking something from it, what are you giving back?
Exactly. You get out what you put in. for somebody that has a fantastic presence on
thank you.
IG and just internet. You even so far as adding your name to your brand because you knew that would help, and then you're so
Well, that was
involved.
advised.
Well, that's good advisory.
And it was good. It was from someone who knew her stuff.
Hey, no, it's brilliant.
Yeah.
So you've really made something of yourself, about yourself, in a personal brand way. I think that we all agree, especially here, no matter what you learn, personal brand, especially moving into this next age, personal brand is super important because AI will do a lot of things. So all you have is yourself. So my final question, well, hopefully until one day it's like bionic. I invite that. I think it would be pretty cool to have like, what if you lose your arm? You need a new arm. Anyway, personal branding, final thoughts. What advice would you give to somebody who maybe watches this, discovers this, and thinks, hey, that person is in a really cool place in life. I'd like to achieve that through either learnings or discipline or habits. Final thoughts on your sort of code.
My mantra is always, you don't ask, you don't get. I say it all the time. Ask the curious questions. If there's a new subject that is very nuanced to you, go to the right places. I came to the Xcelerate's first sort of meetup for AI. But being part of hard groups and it's hard when it's completely male, and I'm like, do I not know enough, or am I just a female and all the men know everything? So asking the hard questions, taking a shot at things that your gut is telling you to take. Just be constantly curious, because if you're curious, you'll be hungry, and if you're hungry, you'll always want to chase after those answers. And I don't think ignorance is bliss anymore. I think you should know, you should be knowledgeable, and you should take that knowledge and bring it back, debate within yourself, and see what is relevant to you or not. Like I said, learn the AI, but only use what you need. You don't need thousands of apps. You don't need every part of your life to be AI'd.
Yeah.
But if it helps you with your small emails and it helps you with a few captions and just adding captions to your video, great, do it. If that helps your life, and then you're able to bring out more content. Okay. So don't overcomplicate things. Be curious. Use something that is relevant to you in your life. Like I've always used something that is relevant to me, whether it's my business or my lifestyle, and then learn something so that I'm sort of the center of the subject of learning it, so that it motivates you.
Okay. I think I get that.
So if I learned AI, it was like, how can it help me?
Yes.
With productivity, or how can it help me in the future? Like what relevance is going to bring with Web3? It's like, how is it going to help my business? How is it going to help? Okay, the end goal is that it could mean this, and I could problem solve this, and then sort of set your vision towards.
It's been wonderful to have you back.
Thank you.
You have a lot of things coming up. You mentioned you have something coming up soon in a magazine.
I'll let you know when the cover comes through.
And then where should people follow you?
They can follow me. They can follow me on Instagram at Payal, or my brands are also in my bio, or I have LinkedIn, Payal Shah. Twitter at Litizen. I mean, if you have the app, I have the handle.
I assure you, maybe not now, but one day, hundreds of thousands of people are going to watch these podcasts, and then they'll find you.
It doesn't matter. We don't need to do hundreds of thousands of people. Even 5 changes in 5 people can expedite into so much more.
I really enjoyed this. I enjoy your energy. Thank you so much. I can't wait till the next thing. Could be an event, could be a workshop.
Could be something like Xccelerate. You'll never know.
Could be. You never know. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you so much.
And see you guys in the next episode.
Bye.